Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Autumn and today I am going to be talking about the books I read in April and the reading plans I have for May. I'm gonna try and make this video pretty quick because I am like slowly losing my voice. We just got back from vacation. I feel like I'm still kind of recovering from that, but I'm sorry if it's annoying. Just try and bear with me and I'll try to be quick with this video. In April, I had a very slow reading month. I would say that due to all of the traveling we did, we went to New York for a week and we were home for 4 or 5 days, and then we left and we went to Utah for about 6 days, I think. By the time we came home, I had to work for 2 days, and then now it's May. The reading month for April was pretty short and sweet. I only finished 2 books in the month of April, and the first book I read was Dance of Thieves by Margaret E. Pearson. Now, I talked about the synopsis in the previous video, so to save us all some words with my really crappy voice, I won't read you the synopsis. Okay, quick pause for a moment because I could have swore at some point on my channel I gave a synopsis of Dance of Thieves, but for the life of me I cannot find the video I am referencing here, so I am just going to quickly give the Goodreads synopsis. When the patriarch of the Ballinger Empire dies, his son Jace becomes its new leader. Even nearby kingdoms bow to the strength of this outlaw family who have always governed by their own rules. But a new era looms on the horizon, set in motion by a young queen who makes her the target of the dynasty's resentment and anger. At the same time, Cassie, a legendary former street thief, is sent by the queen to investigate transgressions about the new settlements. When Cassie arrives in the forbidding land of the Ballingers, she learns that there is more to Jace than she thought. As unexpected events spiral out of their control, bringing them intimately together, they continue to play a cat and mouse game of false moves and motives in order to fulfill their own secret missions. This book for me was a 4-star read. I absolutely loved Cassie, our main female lead, and I really loved Jace, and he was our main male lead, also the love interest. I really loved those 2 main characters, and this book is told in dual POV, and I absolutely loved that. There's actually a 3rd POV that I also really appreciated, and I think it added a lot of depth to this story. And if you listen to the audiobook, it is multiple narrators, and I think that the narrators for the audiobook did an absolutely fantastic job. I absolutely loved the audiobook, and I really think that the author did a great job with establishing the individual voices of the 2 characters. You always knew who was speaking and you always knew whose chapter it was. So if you had taken away some of the chapter headings and it wasn't established that this was Jace's chapter or if this was Cassie's chapter, you would know. And I absolutely think that that is phenomenal writing. I think that this story did so well with being told by dual POV because it kept this story so interesting and it kept the plot and really the characters alive. I was never bored while I was reading this story, and I thought that this was beautifully done. I have full intentions of reading the next book in this duology, which is Vow of Thieves. I don't know if I'll be reading it anytime soon because I don't own it quite yet. I absolutely loved this book. The reason I'm not giving it 5 stars is I'm not feeling that 5-star punch. I loved it and I thought it was great. The writing was beautiful, but I'm just not feeling that 5-star read. You know, this was one of the 2 books I read in April. The other book I read in the month of April was Beach Read by Emily Henry. Now, I don't own this book because it was a library book and I listened to the audiobook for this as well, but I thought that this was a really sweet read. This was my first Emily Henry, and I will definitely be picking up more Emily Henry in the future. So I gave this book 4.5 stars. The writing in this was really fun. I had a great time with this story. I also thought that it was pretty easy to get into. The writing was pretty simple. I don't think it was like wild and crazy or really difficult to get into this story. Once you got into the flow of the story, I felt like I read it pretty quickly, and I loved our main character, January Andrews. She was a character that did have a lot to unpack, and she had a lot of, you know, things that were happening in her life and that also affected the things that she did in the story, where while she was struggling with writing and how she interacted with our love interest, I feel like you could really sense that the things that were her problems and things that she was trying to overcome, that they were very realistic and you could relate to that, but you could also see it on the page. I really loved that. I loved how three-dimensional she was. I have kind of mixed feelings about the love interest. Well, I do think that I enjoyed his character. He kind of fell a little flat for me sometimes, and I wasn't totally like into the banter fully all the time. I've noticed with me that I do enjoy banter in stories, but sometimes I feel like it gets a little carried away, and that's just personal preference. And I think that was a little bit of the case with this book, where I was enjoying the banter, but then sometimes it just gets a little old or a little repetitive for me, and I just want something else out of the story than just banter. But I get it, it's a romance, so they're gonna be bantering. I think one of my favorite scenes in this story, and I think the narrator did this very well, I want to say it was at the end of chapter 2 or 3, I think. I did what any normal adult woman would do. I dove behind the bookshelf. I just thought that scene and the visual I had for that was just absolutely hilarious, and it was really funny and cute, and I could see myself diving behind a bookshelf. I have done that before. If I've seen somebody I know in like a bookstore or somewhere and I really just don't want to talk to them, I have dove behind a shelf as well. I related to that. I thought that was really funny. I'm not a huge romance reader. I'm not really somebody who gravitates to a lot of romance stories. Take my review, take my 2 cents as, you know, a grain of salt, basically. Sometimes I feel like romance scenes give me a little bit of cringe because sometimes they feel a little not realistic. I cringed just a little bit when it was some of those scenes, although I will say that I did think it was really cute when they were running across from her house to his. That scene I thought was really cute, but I'm just not a huge romance person. I sometimes am a little cringy when it comes to those scenes. Now, I know that this is a romance, and I will say that I feel like sometimes the plot just kind of fell off to the side, but I mean, it's fine because it is a romance. And while I do feel like that the plot kind of fell off to the wayside, I do think that the story was pretty well paced. I don't feel like everything was like rushed to the ending. I think it was pretty well paced. I did appreciate that for a romance novel, and it really felt like Emily Henry had taken her time with trying to get to that ending. So nothing felt rushed, nothing felt, you know, let's just quickly get this over with. Everything felt like it came in due time. I liked it. I thought that it was really fun, really sweet. The reason I knocked off half a star, and I'm noticing this about myself with the more romance that I read, is I'm not a huge fan of the cheating trope. I don't like that, and I didn't actually know that this book had it in there. I mean, maybe it said it in there. Maybe I need to do more investigating before I just pick books up. This book does have a little cheating in it, and it does come up kind of often. It is something that gets resolved, but I just don't really like that. I'm just not a fan of it. But that was something I wanted to note. That's the reason I gave it a 4.5 star. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to what I have planned for May, and I'm really excited to say for the month of May, I am going to be participating in a readathon. This is the first time I've ever participated in a readathon, and let me just say that it is so intricate. There's so much involved in this readathon. I mean, not necessarily for me because I just have to read books and log the books, but it is the most fun and interesting event that I have ever seen organized, especially something that's virtual. I am participating in a readathon called Escape the Readathon at the Black Cat Carnival. I will leave the host linked down below. Her name is Lexi from Books with Lexi, and the link to the video of her describing and talking about this readathon. While this video is coming up in May, if you were interested in joining, you can still join. Just start reading books. I am on the team Thrill Seekers. I don't remember exactly what our little fun tagline was, but I remember that it described me perfectly. I am going to be on that team. I don't exactly know how much I can share and how much I can't share because I don't want to like spoil things for anybody. I will try to keep this strictly about the books that I'll be reading and not necessarily trying to fill the prompts, because I think it's the prompts that can get spoiled for other people. The idea for this haunted carnival is you have all these different teams, and you joined the team, so I'm Team Thrill Seekers, and we all have to read a certain amount of books that relate to a certain prompt. We read books in exchange for tickets, and then once we read that amount of books, we'll unlock that building, and then we get to go to the next building. The team that gets out the fastest wins, and there are also game makers who are working behind the scenes who are also going to be reading books books, and they're going to try to keep you inside the carnival. But these game masters can take away tickets, so then we don't get out of these houses or these buildings in time. I overestimated the amount of books I want to read for next month, and really probably how much, like, realistically I am going to be able to read. I just talked about reading 2 books in the month of April. I was reading 2 other books in the month of April and I didn't finish them, so I'm just gonna carry those over to the month of May, and hopefully I'll be able to finish those and use them for a prompt. I have 10 books that I want to talk to you guys about. Now, one thing we all need to know about me is I'm very much a mood reader. Even though it's May 2nd when I'm filming this video and I'm showing you these 10 books, this is very much subject to change. I could potentially not read any of these books just because I am such a mood reader. While I have these 10 books on my TBR, I'll be totally honest, I don't think I'm going to get to all of them, but at least it gives myself a variety of books. So if I'm not wanting to read one of these 10 books but one of the other books for a certain prompt, I can definitely do that. I will quickly go through these books and we will chat a little bit about them. So one of the books I want to read next month is Malice by John Gwynne. It's a pretty long synopsis, so I won't read the entire thing to spare you of my horrible voice. But it says, the world is broken and it can never be made whole again. John Gwynne hits all the right spots in his epic tale of good versus evil. Gwynne is definitely one to watch. 3-dimensional characters, a gripping plot, and a world that became real to me. In short, this is the kind of fantasy I love to read, and I truly can't wait for the next volume in The Faithful and the Fallen. And those were 2 reviews on the back of this book. This is going to be one of the books. Hopefully I can get to it. It's a pretty chunky boy, so we'll see what happens. The next book on the list is Gallant by V.E. Schwab. Now, I have read V.E. Schwab before and I absolutely love her writing style. I've heard mixed things. I've seen that some people do like it, but then some of the people I trust with their books and their reviews of books have said that they don't like it. So it says, all her life, Olivia Pryor has wondered who she truly is and where she belongs. Her only clue is a slim, battered journal. Her mother's journal filled with entries that seem to show that she is unraveling. The hell was that? That she is unraveling, and drawings that look like blots of ink, until Olivia notices a hand, a door, a bloom, a skull. Then a letter beckons Olivia home, to Gallant, the one place her mother's journal warns her never to go. Olivia goes anyway. Of course she does. What she finds is her last living relative and her family's manor. A manor with a ballroom and a sitting room and a study and a sprawling, vibrant garden, and a crumbling ruin of a garden wall with an iron door. A door she must never open. But no one at Gallant sent Olivia that letter, and no one will tell her what haunts her cousin's dreams, what happened to her mother, and what lies on the other side of the wall. Did the shadows call Olivia home? What will they ask of her in return? This is a very beautiful illustrated copy. There's some like really pretty designs and stuff in this book. I'm really excited for it. I hope I do end up liking it. I have this audiobook ready on Libby and it's a relatively short audiobook, so hopefully it's something I'll be able to just sit down and get through pretty quickly. So the next book on this list is The Ballerinas by Rachel Kapelk Dale. I won't read the synopsis of this because I feel like I'm dying and it's probably hard to listen to me, I'm sorry. But basically this little thing up here says, ballerinas are like point shoes. Cute. Ballerinas are like point shoes. You have to break them down before they're of any use. I loved the synopsis of this book. It's also a pretty short thriller, so hopefully it's something I can read pretty quickly and then log for my thrill seekers team. So the next book on this list is The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward. So I actually have 2 Catriona Ward books on this list. I was reading Looking Glass Sound, which I'll talk about in just a second. I had that on my list for April, but I didn't finish it, so that's one of the books that's gonna be rolled over. But I have heard such good things about The Last House on Needless Street. It says, in a boarded up house on a dead-end street at the edge of the wild Washington woods lives a family of 3, a young girl who isn't allowed outside, not after last time, a man who drinks alone in front of his TV trying to ignore the gaps in his memory, and a house cat who loves napping and reading the Bible. An unspeakable secret binds them together, but when a new neighbor moves in next door, what is buried out among the birch trees memories may come back to haunt them all. The Last House on Needless Street is an immersive and shocking journey that will keep you guessing until the last page. So this sounds so freaking good. I cannot wait. This has been one I've been dying to read for forever. Hopefully this will be something I get to in May. Okay, next up we have Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. Now the reason I am wanting to read this book for the month of May, one is because the book I'm currently working on, like writing, the working title for it is called Project Ice, and I want to say it's pretty similar to Red Queen, but I've never read Red Queen. I can't exactly say that for sure, but I want to read this book because I feel like it can be something that I can pull inspiration from. This is a library book, and I also have the audiobook on Libby. They put the little sticker on the back. I can't read the synopsis off of this, but if we go to Goodreads says, this is a world divided by blood, red or silver. The Reds are commoners ruled by a silver elite in possession of godlike superpowers, and to Mayor Barrow, a 17-year-old red girl from the poverty-stricken Stilts, it seems like nothing will ever change. That is, until she finds herself working in the Silver Palace. Here, surrounded by the people she hates the most, Mayor discovers that despite her red blood, she possesses a deadly power of her own, one that threatens to destroy the balance of power. Fearful of Mayor's potential, the Silvers hide her in plain view, declaring her a long-lost Silver Princess, now engaged to the Silver Prince. Despite knowing that one misstep would mean her death, Mayor works silently to help the Red Guard, a militant resistant group, and bring down the Silver regime. But this is a world of betrayal and lies, and Mayor has entered a dangerous dance. Reds against Silvers, Prince against Prince, and Mayor against her own heart. Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. We're halfway through these books, I think. I am halfway through. I'm gonna keep pedaling forward. But the next one on this list is The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. This is also a library book, so I'll just quickly read the little tagline at the top. A forgotten history, a secret network of women, a legacy of poison and revenge. Welcome to The Lost Apothecary. I know it spans across, I think like 200 years. I'm pretty pumped for this one, and it seems like it's a relatively short read, so hopefully it will be one I can actually get to. So I have 4 more books I want to talk about, but 2 of these books I started reading before the month of May. I didn't get a chance to finish them, and then one of them was a previous DNF from a couple of months ago. I hope to get to that one and to give it another shot. The first one I want to talk about is Wild and Wicked Things by Francesca May. Now, I had started reading this book back in March. In the month of April, I had to finish Beach Read because that was a library book and I couldn't extend it anymore, so I had to stop reading this one so I could get that library book read and returned. And then we went on vacation for, you know, like 2 weeks in the whole month of April, and I didn't get a chance to read this one. I am going to be returning to it, and I'm not far. I'm 100 pages in. I might just start it over because it's a really great book. I was having so much fun with it, and I'm really sad that I had to put it down, but I think I'll restart it for the month of May. The synopsis on the back says, on Crow Island, people whisper that real magic lurks just below the surface, but magic doesn't interest Annie Mason, not after it stole her future. She's on the island to settle her late father's estate and hopefully reconnect with her long-lost best friend, Beatrice. Yet, Crow Island is brimming with temptation, and the most mesmerizing may be Annie's new neighbor. Mysterious and alluring Emmeline Delacroix is a figure shadowed by rumors of witchcraft. Soon, Annie is drawn into a glittering world filled with extravagant parties, a world where the boundaries of wickedness are tested, and the cost of illicit magic might be death. This one I really want to get back to in the month of May, so hopefully I'll be able to. Hopefully. And then the other book, I think I'm about 18% of the way through. I am reading the ebook on my Kindle and listening to the audiobook on Libby, but it is Looking Glass Sound by Catriona Ward, and I have been having a really creepy and fun time with this book. I want to get back and finish this book in the month of May. I will pull up the synopsis to read to you guys. It says, in a lonely cottage overlooking the windswept Maine coast, Wilder Wilder Harlow begins his last book he will ever write. It is a story of his childhood summer companions and the killer that stalked the small New England town, of the body they found and the horror of the discovery echoing down the decades, and of Skye, Wilder's one-time best friend who stole his unfinished memoir and turned it into a best-selling novel, Looking Glass Sound. But as Wilder writes, the lines between memory and fiction blur. He fears he's losing his grip on reality when he finds hidden notes around the cottage written in Skye's signature red ink. So I've been having a lot of fun with this book so far, and hopefully it is one that I get to finish in the month of May. Not last and not least, I've got two more, this one and one other one. A Door in the Dark by Scott Rankin. This was the book I DNF'd in March, so I'm hoping, giving myself like a month and a half to step away from this book, I can come back and read it and hopefully give it another shot. It's a relatively short read too. I just was having such a difficult time getting into the writing style of this story, and I do blame it on trying to read this book after working multiple 12-hour shifts and just not being in the right headspace for this type of story. It follows, I want to say, like 5 or 6 different wizards. They all get into a fight and then magic is flying around. They end up getting teleported somewhere else, and when they all come to in this new place, one of them in the group is dead. It has really cool vibes, and I hope that I do end up liking this story once I give it another shot. So the last book on this list is Baron and Luthien, I believe, and it's by J.R.R. Tolkien. It might fall into a category with the readathon, but I am reading this book because my friend and I have a Tolkien book club where we're reading all of Tolkien's work. This is the book that we're currently going to be reading for the month of May, and we are going to meet on May 30th, I believe, to discuss this book. Okay, I lied. There's one more book that I didn't have in this stack, and it's because I pre-ordered the book and it's not here yet, and I totally forgot about it until I was looking down at my notes. The last book on this list is The Return of Ellie Black by Emiko Jean. Now, this book is coming out this month. I want to say the release date is maybe May 9th or 10th, and I had pre-ordered this book, so I don't have it to show you, but the cover is here and it's absolutely gorgeous. This will be the last synopsis I read because I need to go lay down, but it says, Detective Chelsea Calhoun's life is turned upside down when she gets the call Ellie Black, a girl who disappeared years earlier, has resurfaced in the woods of Washington State. But Ellie's reappearance leaves Chelsea with more questions than answers. It's been 20 years since Detective Chelsea Calhoun's sister vanished when they were teenagers, and ever since she's been searching for signs, for closure, and for other missing girls. But happy endings are rare in Chelsea's line of work. Then a glimmer. A local girl named Ellie Black, who disappeared without a trace 2 years earlier, has been found alive in the woods of Washington State. But something isn't right with Ellie. She won't say where she's been or who she's protecting, and it's up to Chelsea to find the answers. She needs to get to the bottom of what happened to Ellie for herself and for the memory of her sister, but mostly for the next girl who could be taken and who, unlike Ellie, might never return. So this is this author's debut thriller novel. I believe this author has written other things. I'm not quite sure because I have never read from this author. My friend recommended this book to me, and I believe she had to have gotten an ARC because how else would she have read it? And she absolutely loved it, convinced me, and I pre-ordered the book. So this should be here in May as well, and that is just gonna go on the very heavy stack of books that I have to read for May, or will attempt to read for May. May just seems like it's going to be a chaotic reading month. It's not going so well since I'm sick right now, and as you can tell with this video, I am dying. But here's all the books plus 1, 2, Looking Glass Sound, and then the Baron and Luthien. These are all the books that I have planned to read in the month of May. Let me know what you're going to be reading for the month of May, if you're going to be participating in the readathon. If you've ever participated in a readathon, let me know down in the comments below. And if you're still watching and you don't know what else to say, leave me the little Ferris wheel emoji for Team Thrill Seekers. And thank you all so much for watching this video. My name is Autumn, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.